Here's the email that went out at 7 a.m. the next day while Angie and I were spray painting Vamp Mob Civic Center at strategic locations around town. Rules for Vamp Mob. You are part of the clan of daylight vampires. You've discovered the secret of surviving the terrible light of the sun. The secret is cannibalism. The blood of another vampire can give you the strength to walk among the living. You need to bite as many other vampires as you can in order to stay in the game. If 1 minute goes by without a bite, you're out. Once you're out, turn your shirt around backwards and go referee. Watch 2 or 3 vamps to see if they're getting their bites in. To bite another vamp, you have to say, bite, 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 5 times before they do. So you run up to a vamp, make eye contact, and shout, bite, 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 bite. If you get it out before she does, you live, and she crumbles to dust. You and the other vamps you meet at your rendezvous are a team. They are your clan. You derive no nourishment from their blood. You can go invisible by standing still and folding your arms over your chest. You can't bite invisible vamps, and they can't bite you. This game is played on the honor system. The point is to have fun and get your vamp on, not to win. There is an end game that will be passed by word of mouth as winners begin to emerge. The game masters will start a whisper campaign among the players when the time comes. Spread the whisper as quickly as you can, and watch for this. Mikey. P.S. Bite, 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 bite. We'd hoped that maybe 100 people would be willing to play Vamp. We'd sent out about 200 invites each, but when I sat bolt upright at 4 a.m. and grabbed my Xbox, there were 400 replies there. 400! I fed the addresses to the bot and stole out of the house. I descended the stairs, listening to my father snore and my mom rolling over in their bed. I locked the door behind me. At 4:15 a.m., Potrero Hill was as quiet as the countryside. There were some distant traffic rumbles, and once a car crawled past me. I stopped at an ATM and drew out $320 in 20s, rolled them up, and put a rubber band around them, and stuck the roll in a zip-up pocket low on the thigh of my vampire pants. I was wearing my cape again, and a ruffled shirt and tuxedo pants that had been modded to have enough pockets to carry all my little bits and pieces. I had on pointed boots with silver skull buckles, and I teased my hair into a black dandelion clock around my head. Angie was bringing the white makeup and had promised to do my eyeliner and black nail polish. They're dressed up as goths, you see. Why the heck not? When was the next time I was going to get to play dress up like this? Angie met me in front of her house. She had her backpack on too, and fishnet tights, a ruffled gothic maid's dress, white face paint, elaborate kabuki eye makeup, and her fingers and throat dripped with silver jewelry. You look great, we said to each other in unison, and then laughed quietly and stole off through the streets, spray paint cans in our pockets. As I arrived at and surveyed Civic Center, I thought about what it would look like once 400 vamp mobbers converged on it. I expected them in 10 minutes out front of City Hall. Already the big plaza teemed with commuters who neatly sidestepped the homeless people begging there. I've always hated Civic Center. It's a collection of huge wedding cake buildings, courthouses, museums, and civic buildings like City Hall. The sidewalks are wide, the buildings are white, and in tourist guides to San Francisco, they managed to photograph it so it looks like Epcot Center, futuristic and austere. But on the ground, it's grimy and gross. People sleep on all the benches. The district is empty by 6 p.m., except for drunks and druggies, because with only one kind of building there, there's no legit reason for people to hang around after the sun goes down. It's more like a mall than a neighborhood, and the only businesses there are bail bondsmen and liquor stores, places that cater to the families of crooks on trial and the bums who make it their midnight. I really came to understand all of this when I read an interview with an amazing old urban planner, a woman called Jane Jacobs, who was the first person to really nail why it was wrong to slice cities up with freeways, stick all the poor people in housing projects, and use zoning laws to tightly control who got to do what where. Jacobs explained that real cities are organic and they have a lot of variety. Rich and poor, white and brown, Latino and Anglo, retail and residential, and even industrial. A neighborhood like that has all kinds of people passing through it at all hours of the day or night. So you get businesses that cater to every need. You get people around all the time, acting like eyes on the street. You've encountered this before. You go walking around some older part of some city, and you find it's full of the coolest looking stores, guys in suits, people in fashionable rags, upscale restaurants and funky cafes, a little movie theater maybe, houses with elaborate paint jobs. Sure, there might be a Starbucks too, but there's also a neat looking fruit market and a florist who appears to be 300 years old, snips carefully at the flowers in her windows. It's the opposite of a planned space, like a mall. It feels like a wild garden or even a woods, like it grew. You couldn't get any farther from that than Civic Center, San Francisco. I read an interview with Jacobs where she talked about the great old neighborhood they knocked down to build it. It had been just that kind of neighborhood, the kind of place that happened without permission, or rhyme, or reason. Jacobs said that she predicted that within a few years, Civic Center would be one of the worst neighborhoods in the city, a ghost town at night, a place that sustained a thin crop of weedy booze shops and flea pit motels. In the interview, she didn't seem very glad to have been vindicated. She sounded like she was talking about a dead friend when she described what Civic Center had become. Now it was rush hour. Civic Center was as busy as it could be. The Civic Center BART also serves the major station for Muni trolley lines, and if you need to switch from one to another, that's where you do it. At 8 a.m., there were thousands of people coming up the stairs, going down the stairs, getting into and out of taxis and on and off buses. They got squeezed by Homeland Security checkpoints at the different civic buildings and routed around aggressive panhandlers. They all smelled like their shampoos and cologne, fresh out of the shower and armored in their work suits, swinging laptop bags and briefcases. At 8 a.m., Civic Center was business central. And here came the vamp mob, vampires. A couple dozen coming down Van Ness, a couple dozen coming up Market, more coming from the other side of Market Street, more coming up from Van Ness. They slipped around the side of the buildings, wearing the white face paint and black eyeliner, black clothes, leather jackets, huge stompy boots, fishnet, fingerless gloves. They began to fill up the plaza. A few of the business people gave them passing glances and then looked away, not wanting to let these weirdos into their personal realities as they thought about whatever crap they were about to wade through for another 8 hours. The vamps milled around, not sure when the game was on. They pooled together in large groups like an oil spill in reverse, all this black gathering in one place. A lot of them sported old timey hats, bowlers, and toppers. Many of the girls were in full on elegant Gothic costumes with huge platform boots. I tried to estimate the numbers 200, then 5 minutes later it was 300, 400. They were still streaming in. The vamps had brought friends. Someone grabbed my butt. I spun around and saw Angie, laughing so hard that she had to hold her thighs bent double. Look at them all, man! Look at them all! She gasped. The square was twice as crowded as it had been a few minutes ago. I had no idea how many ex-netters were there, but easily 1,000 of them had just showed up to my little party. Wow. The DHS and SFPD cops were starting to mill around, talking into their radios, clustering together. I heard a faraway siren. All right, I said, shaking Angie by the arm. All right, let's go. We both slipped off into the crowd, and as soon as we encountered our first vamp, we both said loudly, "Bite, bite, 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 bite!" My victim was a stunned, cute girl with spider webs drawn on her hands and smudged mascara running down her cheeks. She said, "Crap!" and moved away, acknowledging that I'd gotten her. The call of "Bite, bite, 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 bite!" had scrambled the nearby other vamps. Some of them were attacking each other. Others were moving for cover, hiding out. I had my victim for the minute, so I skulked away, using mundanes for cover. All around me, the cry of "Bite, bite, 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 bite!" and shouts and laughs and curses. The sound spread like a virus through the crowd. All the vamps knew the game was on now, and the ones who were clustered together were dropping like flies. They laughed and cussed and moved away, cluing the still-in vamps that the game was on. And more vamps were arriving by the second. 8:16. It was time to bag another vamp. I crouched low and moved through the legs of the straights as they headed for the BART stairs. They jerked back with surprise and swerved to avoid me. I had my eyes laser locked on a set of black platform boots with steel dragons over the toes, and so I wasn't expecting it when I came face to face with another vamp, a guy of about 15 or 16, hair gelled straight back and wearing a PVC jacket draped with necklaces carved with intricate symbols. Bite, 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 he began, when one of the mundanes tripped over him. They both went sprawling. I leaped over him and shouted, bite, 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 before he could untangle himself again. More vamps were arriving. The suits were really freaking out. The game overflowed the sidewalk and moved into Van Ness Street, spreading up toward Market Street. Drivers honked. The trolleys made angry ding, 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 dings. I heard more sirens, but now traffic was snarled in every direction. It was freaking glorious. Bite, 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 bite! The sound came from all around me. There were so many vamps there, playing so furiously. It was like a roar. I risked standing up and looking around and found that I was right in the middle of a giant crowd of vamps that went as far as I could see, in every direction. Bite, 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 bite! This was even better than the concert in Dolores Park. That had been angry and rockin', but this was, well, it was just fun. It was like going back to the playground, to the epic games of tag we'd play on lunch breaks when the sun was out. Hundreds of people chasing each other around. The adults and the cars just made it more fun, more funny. That's what it was. It was funny. We were all laughing now. But the cops were really mobilizing now. I heard helicopters. Any second now, it would be over. Time for the end game. I grabbed a vamp. End game. Order us to disperse. Pretend you've been gassed. Pass it on. What did I just say? The vamp girl was a girl, tiny, so short. I thought she was really young. She must have been 17 or 18 from her face and her smile. Oh, that's wicked, she said. What did I say? She repeated it back to me. End game. When the cops order us to disperse, pretend you've been gassed. Pass it on. What did I just say? Right. Pass it on. She melted into the crowd. I grabbed another vamp. I passed it on. He went off to pass it on. Somewhere in the crowd, I knew Angie was doing this too. Somewhere in the crowd, there might be infiltrators, fake ex-netters, but what could they do with this knowledge? It's not like the cops had a choice. They were going to order us to disperse. That was guaranteed. I had to get to Angie. The plan was to meet at the founder's statue in the plaza, but reaching it was going to be hard. The crowd wasn't moving anymore. It was surging, like the mob had on the way down to the BART station the day the bombs went off. I struggled to make my way through it just as the PA underneath the helicopter switched on. This is the Department of Homeland Security. You are ordered to disperse immediately. Around me, hundreds of vamps fell to the ground, clutching their throats, clawing at their eyes, gasping for breath. It was easy to fake being gassed. We'd all seen the footage of the partiers in Mission Dolores Park going down under the pepper spray clouds. Disperse immediately. I fell to the ground, protecting my pack, reaching around to the red baseball hat folded into the waistband of my pants. I jammed it on my head and then grabbed my throat and made horrendous, retching noises. The only ones still standing were the mundanes, the salarymen who'd been just trying to get to their jobs. I looked around as best as I could at them, and I choked and gasped. This is the Department of Homeland Security. You are ordered to disperse immediately. Disperse immediately. The loud voice made my bowels ache. It felt it in my molars and in my femurs and my spines. The salarymen were scared. They were moving as fast as they could, but in no particular direction. The helicopters seemed to be directly overhead, no matter where you stood. The cops were wading into the crowd now, and they put on their helmets. Some had shields, some had gas masks. I gasped harder. Then the salarymen were running. I probably would have run too. I watched a guy whip a $500 jacket off and whip it around his face while heading south toward Mission, only to trip up and go sprawling. His curses joined the choking. Continued in part 2.